What was that?
Hi!
What was that
Everything's
you just
great.
said?
Painting on a
Everything's
smile. We're going live. Okay. So to really tell the story of our let's switch off lines.
No.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
So what are we doing? We're doing part 2 of our reversal of fortunes. We've only done one of these. We did this one before. It got messy. It got really messy. It was bad. We fought. I said some things that I regret.
I got really emotionally unsober, which I always regret.
And we just made another bad video that is no longer up, but not because we're trying to hide it. There were like other
we
things
don't
that
hide
happened.
all kinds of times of us fighting and being
But
messy.
that one had
data that was what do you call it when it's like
classified.
Classified data that I accidentally leaked.
Not like classified like about our stories, like information that you can't know about.
It's just like internal organization terminology, etc. Just shit that I shouldn't have. I was accidentally using things that I should have been keeping sacred.
Reversal of Fortunes Part 2. Just a little preamble. Just a little prologue.
Our fave.
This
here.
is like the worst live video topic ever.
We hate it.
We hate it. I have issues with everything she's going to say. There's no point where she mentions me that I am not triggered and don't have at least a good amount of feelings thinking that this is all, horrible, that I am being cruelly misrepresented. That's how I feel. I'll just say it all at the beginning. I feel cruelly misrepresented by this information. Whether or not it is true doesn't change the fact that my feelings are that I feel cruelly misrepresented.
And that's really the
by all of
problem
it.
with really triggering past things and stories. Every person is triggered by their own parts of the story, and every person therefore remembers things differently, wants to gloss over and really focus in on certain different facts. The facts become so contextual, it's just messy. So the reason, because of all of that, and because this is past things that we're going into that are very triggering for both of us in different ways, we're gonna try and just keep it focused on the broader emotional and spiritual reality, the symbols and patterns that are represented in this story that represent who we are, and our symbols that repeat in our lives, our patterns, our rackets. So let's be overarchingly simple here.
Yeah.
We are, and when this story starts of the reversal of fortunes, we're in the thick of it and just realizing or being told by Wiko more of what they're witnessing and what we are. A relationship with a codependent enabler, covert narcissist with a lying problem. My problem...
Unlike all the honest covert narcissists out there.
It's definitely connected, the two. And with me as a codependent enabler, I gaslight myself. I try and minimize the past actions of a covert narcissist, and if not for this army, I would never even try and get into those things and rehash them. And therefore, that I think is probably a reason we've never talked about these things a lot together, so it just comes out on live.
We're doing it for the first time now. Raw.
Fresh. So let alone being able to have my own frame, I don't. Or I especially didn't back then, because we're climbing out.
I don't recognize others' frames.
And he doesn't recognize others' frames and wants everything to be on his frame. Where I'm just take my frame. He's like, I will. So we work really well together as a codependent relationship because of these things. And, Psych 101, codependent enabler and narcissist relationships. That's
we're working
the way it works.
Things are better now than they were whenever all this stuff
Things
was
are
happening.
way better. We
Just
still
saying.
have issues because we're on the journey. But this is the part where we're not even on the journey. We're just being told and trying to kind of deny that these things are happening.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at in 2021, where this beginning of this story happens, where we're two of us together. And so while I'm, through my enabling, denying the negativity, coddling or pulling punches or not, just kind of like dissociating about the thing and just like being like, yes, I love this relationship. I love like being, getting this narcissist to like feed and not have to like think about my own life.
She has a feeding kink. You're a feeder.
Ooh. And so
it's just not like pepperoni pizza, you know.
So I'm like not wanting to, I said this, like not wanting to get mired down in details of the intellectual here. That's just like our pattern and our vibe throughout this reversal of fortunes to set the scene. And hopefully that can just like get to the truth and maybe like prevent us from starting to devolve into fighting he says, she says about this story and what led to the reversal of fortunes and where we are now. So we kind of introduced, you kind of said this, Yonah, and this is like name change, another triggering
There's been
thing.
some sort of name change that was announced. It hasn't been like accepted.
Jesus, no
none of the paperwork has been done.
Yeah, so you can still deny it, but his name is Yonah now. It's no longer
Jesus.
Army,
I actually go by Idan, by the way. So
yeah, now what a convenient time to be like, actually, let me just
let me just say that I stick with my own original Hebrew name.
Okay.
You know?
So moving on, if you're wondering why I'm saying Yonah, let me just preface that.
Yeah, I obviously have feelings about that, and I deny that any changes have been made.
Okay, so Yonah will try to paint himself as the victim when he's triggered, say bad things that happen, or that it's other people's fault, or just focus on the parts that he feels needs to be vindicated on or whatever. But I will try to pull punches when telling other people how I feel or how I felt when it's negative or about them or conflict heavy. So it's probably why we've not talked about this stuff together alone. So
we're bringing it to you live. You get this exclusive
not quite live,
content.
but an unedited full stream without any cuts.
This is for the chat. Hey chat.
And I'm really obsessed with image, so I'm like I don't want to admit things or talk about things that admit that I was in a emotionally abusive relationship, codependent relationship. That makes me feel like I would seem like a weak loser, and I don't want to look that way, and I want to make it look like things are hunky-dory. So I avoid these topics, and the supposed audience in my head, even if I'm not like literally having an audience watching this video, it's like my story and the audience of the other people in my life. I way too much focus on the other people in my life and them when I'm like trying to deny shit, and have a seemingly good rep and PR. So, that's just a little more context. 2 years ago, we're at the timeline of we were on our own. Wiko was separate and away from us. That's part 1-ish, where these issues are coming and our relationship is starting to look like how I just described. It's because we're together and we're really getting into it. So then part 2-ish of the timeline is us meeting back up with Wiko and them seeing us and how we are together, which is just different than from afar. There's some things you can't really see until you're IRL with the person, right? All the time. And so they were witnessing and we were engaging in like emotional insobriety in public. That was a big problem. There were some more things we can get into, but things were coming to a head in this toxic relationship that were causing some of the first attempts at Wiko to separate us, starting through like making him be outside of the room and going off site or being in different areas in the daytime, and things continuing to persistently get worse still. A lot of bad, just like in our relationship, but also like we have each our own rackets, but like the way your rackets manifest are very loud, very hard to live with. You are literally destroying shit, and like you would just be, I just remember your hatred for the General Koa or resentment for them would be very clear when they were sharing a room, and like it was just like It wasn't fun to
now
live
the
with.
hatred is from afar.
Now the hatred's from afar, which they don't care about getting hated. They're used to it. But like hate in their own fucking kitchen while like you're just like, it was too much. He needed to go.
I had to go. I wanted to go.
He wanted to go. Whatever. He
did.
was very sad when it actually was happening.
Let's just paint this story a little bit different. It was actually my decision.
I actually felt like I needed space, and
I created a petition. I was like, I think that I am destroying too much, guys, and I'm being an emotionally abusive partner. I need to take a step back from you all.
No.
Let me go live with my ex-girlfriend for a bit in North Carolina. Let's just, we're gonna step things back. I might have to go, engage in some, activity with my father to get through all of this.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. No, at this part 2 of the story, he was vehemently in the denial stage that there were any problems, and so was I. But he was not one to be like, I need to go farther away. He was getting triggered and spiraling any distance that was given. So, whatever, things were happening. My wedding ring was lost by him.
Ring?
My father's wedding, my dead father's wedding ring. Plates of spaghetti were overturned by him in a rage at General Wiz. Like, literal things were getting destroyed. Hotels we were getting kicked out of
because
for
of me. Solely
him.
Because of my behavior. No one else was involved in that. If you'd like to hear about the breakfast conspiracy, just
find him.
Just
He'll tell you all of the problems
it was actually
and
about
how
the breakfast.
he's oppressed.
It was the women and breakfast.
So
we'll get into that one. Mano a mano.
That was the protest that I had written into the script of how you're going to protest at this point.
The breakfast.
And you know what? Like, if you're not in this army, if you're not a Yahuwah-centered, creator-centered person who thinks about that realm, and the creator speaks in signs and symbols and patterns, not through a booming voice in the clouds, those things are hard to admit and key into and think about and talk about, but it's something that is very much talked about in this army. So, preface, if you're one of those Satan worshipping, material realm worshipping individuals who thinks everything's above board as it seems, as it expresses itself materially and physically in your reality, and that has nothing to do with your emotional states or the undercurrent into emotional and spiritual realm around us, that symbols don't express, that have root in deeper things than just what happens like X, Y, and Z, don't continue on. Don't listen to us. We have crazy things to say about how everything is connected and everything is a sign from our Creator to be read by us if we know how to read them. So at this time,
even a bogus breakfast order.
Even at this time, like all of these crazy things that were happening around destruction with Yonah over here, they were indicative of a larger pattern of like him being innermost. The more inner he was in the organization, the more he tried to destroy said organization, even unconsciously and even in ways that were out of your control, like someone else.
Like if you hold a firecracker in your hand and it blows up, you just get a burn. But if you close your fist around the firecracker, your whole hand explodes.
Okay,
and
great.
that's what this army was closing their fist around me, and I was exploding.
Yeah. So a lot of physical, like,
what movie is that from?
I don't know. There was a lot of chaos happening that as soon as he was removed from the perimeter, the chaos completely stopped. Like night and day. I remember General Koa.
I took all the chaos with me.
He did.
Though.
And then General
the chaos
Koa,
had to go somewhere.
General Koa and I were like, have you noticed that we've had zero problems with any of the
like,
hotel staff?
Crying every day.
And like meanwhile he's out on his rumspringa, like not a rumspringa because you had, well maybe you made it kind of into a rumspringa. I think that's when like not autistic, Amish people have their coming of age, they go off the farm and they can do anything, and then they come back if they want to or not.
What's a rumspringa? Rumspringa.
Pennsylvania German pronunciation, also spelled Rumspringa or Rumspringa, is a rite of passage during adolescence. Translated from originally Palatine German and other South
means
was
jumping
German
and hopping
dialects
around.
English as jumping or hopping around, used in some Amish communities.
So he was jumping and hopping around. He was having his teenage tantrum, and we were like, and Wiko was like, because I didn't want him to go at that point because I was still deep in the codependence. Wiko was like, you need to go. You need to go have your moment and come to Jesus' moment. Find out how to be a man, how to take your chaos and get rid of it, and do some things outside of our, like right in our living room.
Did it work? Tell us in the chat.
So, I explained the emotional and spiritual realm trumping the physical and intellectual realm here
So
in this army.
anyways, I was impossible to live with, and obviously we needed space apart to heal our separate issues. So she stayed with mom and dad, and I was sent on my solo mission, happily, just loving every second of it, just really happy to go and just be going and doing my whole thing.
No, there were a
Not
lot of
true.
tears. There were a lot of tears.
It was bad. I hated it. I was angry. I was afraid. I was sad.
After
all this, excuse me.
Sorry.
After all this came to a head, how does this make me feel, you think? So I was, in a place of extreme emotional insobriety. I was not happy at all. I was really, 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 really feeling abandoned. And at this point, the whole, Wiko and Wiko Mary had become, this three-way unit that was making it very clear that I was an outsider to their thing. And that was happening. And that was extremely triggering to me. And I felt really bad about it. And I wanted to be back in the gang. But I was extricated from the gang. I was not part of the gang anymore.
Yes, and in his mind, perhaps I think you might realize this isn't true, but maybe you still feel it emotionally. It's hard for him to see that certain things might be done for actually his benefit, like say taking a narcissist and cutting off his narcissistic supply and purposefully removing attention from him so that he can learn to do things as a man on his own. But at the time, and maybe lingeringly, it can still feel like everyone hates you and everyone thinks you're the worst and everyone is doing everything because they actually just hate you.
I mean, there's a little truth to that. Let's just message me about hashtag breakfast conspiracy.
It's
Let's
so
get into
the
it.
reason that's so offensive to me is because I just remember how much time and care and difficult things were being done all for your benefit that were made you really angry and were really hard for me to do because I wanted to coddle you the whole time, and Wiko was like, you can't coddle him, that's what would actually kill him. And meanwhile, it's still that everything is because we hate you.
Yeah.
But
Hey, breakfast conspiracy.
The
hashtag.
breakfast conspiracy hashtag is continued. So that's happening. We're separate now. And this is when the reversal of fortunes hasn't been set in stone. We haven't had our ranks changed. I'm not his official commanding officer. He's not my official direct report. But he's definitely, not my commanding officer anymore. It's not officially switched, but he's not my commanding officer anymore.
Only in my heart.
Yeah. And only still in my heart. I'm not quite getting it yet either at this point. But we've just separated. And, things are starting to already get better, though. And he's having a lot of feelings, and a lot of chaos, like he said, has been taken out and kept around him, even if it's no longer within the organization. He still loves the chaos, loves the destruction. So, he goes off and stays with someone, and, I don't even want to get too into the physical reality, but just as examples, the house is getting locked out of. He's walking alone and crying. He's calling Wiko and me all the time over and over again during a spiral about something.
Nothing to report there. Everything was hunky-dory.
But in any case, the reversal isn't official, but I'm starting to manage him basically by just telling him things from afar. He's not getting any direct Wiko attention, even if Wiko are doing things for his benefit and still talking about him and helping me manage him. He is not getting a direct line to them anymore. So the narcissistic supply cut is really felt, because that's the first time in this cult that you were not getting any of that. So, and couple that with you being physically alone on your own with a bunch of other people and, getting put up in various places by me finding new places or your old friends hosting you. You know, this is not like I was alone in a gutter. You were very, like, around lots of other people.
That's when sometimes you can feel most alone.
So, let's get into, like, I know this can skew in the negative, quote unquote, seemingly, but let's get into, like, how things were getting better at this time. What was improving? I would say that I was learning how to be more assertive in the right ways. I was learning how to be an evil bitch, really, because I was an evil bitch inside, but hid it and repressed it, and no one likes that.
Cruel.
So I was
Very
actually
cruel.
just, like, outwardly like, fuck you, get your fucking shit together, you maggot. I'm gonna chop all your fingers off and put them in a blender.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It was a little excessive.
She used a little bit of the verbal abuse to get back at some of the emotional abuse of the previous thing.
But he would, like, be, you know, whatever. It was a time. It was a vibe. Would I do that now? It would be inappropriate. Was it kind of appropriate at the time where I was, for the first time in my life, figuring out how to express an ounce of any anger?
Learning to be a girl boss 101.
Learning to be a girl boss 101. Sponsored by Wiko. So anyways, I was like, I don't want to be this mean. And then, of course, I would, and he'd start actually not being an asshole. He would start to, like...
I was beaten down into
but
submission.
this is something to be noted. Part of his whole narcissism and the lying and the whole package is intense oppositional defiance. And we don't really do, like, disorders here because nothing's forever and everything can be fixed, actually. But he had oppositional defiance bad. So this was getting worked out through our long-distance manager relationship as well. And it was getting better. But it was rough and rocky as well.
Horrible.
Anyways, like, you kind of hit your rock bottom while away. I would say as a way to kind of get back at the resentment for being abandoned by Wiko or your supposed
It's
feelings
like, no one's
of
looking at
abandonment.
me, I can do whatever I want. Yeah.
So he did some crazy shit.
Whew.
And you know what? We're not going to get too into what he did at the point where he was away and I was managing him unofficially. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna have you read the apology after that whole kind of tantrum, the tantrum that led you to getting actually, like, suspended from the army.
In a British accent for comedic effect.
Will you? Okay, you know. So we'll, instead of going into it, let's just get into the apology.
Should I do it in an Australian accent? Like, G'day,
You
it's
should do
Jesus.
it in a Norwegian accent.
Well, I don't even know how to do that. I should learn that one, though, when I have to go deep on uncover as Jonathan, you know, and the fucking, I'm Jonathan in the cut, yo.
We don't go undercover here with secret names,
We
to
do.
be clear. We just are so fucking crazy and culty that we give out new names, spiritual names, and sometimes they get changed.
Sometimes they're rejected, and the package arrives at the door, and it isn't signed for, and it sits there.
That's where Yonah's at right now, apparently.
Hello. So this is I did this on Facebook. I went and recorded this video that was posted to Facebook.
Where a lot of his tantruming and bad behavior was happening.
Pretty much all of it at that point, in terms of, like, publicly destructive things.
Destructive stuff,
it was
yeah.
pretty lit. I have fond memories about, like, the luge that I was getting. I'm reading this book right now, and they talk about the passion. I was passionate at this time in a bad way, you know. I was really holding on to, like, the demonic passion that was being fed to me, and, like, you know, the devil was, like, in my ear and being like, just follow the passions. Your feelings
You've been
are
abandoned
right.
here
Been
already. Why
abandoned.
not be
Why not
bad?
destroy your parents too? Kill them. Kill them. I didn't actually kill anyone, but I did do some unsanctioned Facebook attacks. So here's my apology years later. Hey, it's Jesus, aka Edan Brook. This video is both a Facebook farewell, and also about accountability for some of the crazy things I did this past fall and winter. See, now I can do this with, like, a kind of humorous feeling, because, like, I've already done the serious version of it.
But it was very hard to do when you were in it.
Hello, this is Jesus. First off, I want to apologize to my viewers for, you know, I don't have to do it like that anymore. But I'm not gonna make a mockery of it, because it's real. First off, I'd like to apologize to my parents, General Koa and General Wiz, just kidding, my actual parents, and then my cult parents, General Koa and General Wiz. My cult, not my cult sister. Sergeant Major of the Army Mary, and to the objectivist community I've interacted with here online while going through my public and private tantrum sabotages, winter of year 10. You're early 2022, because you're on a different year system than us. I know. Crazy. Apologies are worthless pain matrix things, especially for a narcissist bad boy like myself. However, my clarity around why my behavior will never happen again may actually have some value. Listen on if you would like to hear it. Like and subscribe. My dad runs a cult called Objectivism. And I used its audience last winter to try to get attention from him, as well as my own cult, and really anyone willing to give it to me, including Instagram witches and, all sorts of different people. I was like I was saying again, in a luge sucking. Sorry, I'm like Grant Cardone reading his own audiobook right now. Like I'm like adding some flavor that wasn't in the original thing, but I'm trying not to change the vibe. To understand what happened, why I chose to attempt public destruction of my relationship with my parents, this army has forced me to begin repairing, while still secretly enough that Daylife Army only found out when asking if I had any secrets. It's a hard sentence to say. While still, I don't even understand what I was trying to say here. Anyway, DLA didn't even know I was sabotaging my parents until I was forced to come out with the secrets that I was hiding.
Do you have any secrets that you're hiding? Because something's off right now. Some stuff's going on. What's going on, basically?
Yeah, they didn't string me up or anything. As much as I would like to say that I was, oh no, they made me tell the secrets. Anyway, it takes a deeper explanation of the root cause of it all. My addiction to certain types of attention. Now let's get into it. I've had this addiction since I was a young lad. I have constantly gotten myself into dramatic situations with male authority figures that guarantee attention, even if it's the bad kind. Even if it's the bad kind.
The boyhood
even
comes
the
out.
Bad kind. That kind feels easy to get for me. It's the only kind that I could imagine getting. I got kicked out of school twice for stupid, controversial antics. This attention seeking was the root that led me to add physical addictions on top of my addictions. Also young, I was partaking. Objectivism played a pretty central role, actually, with my teacher at the objectivist school, Andrew Lewis. Look him up. Google him. I'm just kidding. Leave him alone,
Continue.
Sorry. This is not like to be made light of. I'm just feeling like a catharsis from my previous real like sad boy vibe. My teacher at the objectivist school, not trying to cancel him. In my heart I am a little bit. But he was the first person to get me into drugs when he asked me to find him ecstasy when I was in 10th grade. And he was tutoring me. So I was like 15, and he said, hey, he first mentioned to me when I was in 8th grade.
Enough. You
Sorry,
don't need to go. You love to go into the past drug stories. Anytime a past drug story happens, you're like
hold on.
Whoa, let
Guys,
me go back in time.
Message me #breakfast conspiracy. Okay. We'll get all into the past drug conspiracies as well. That were actually true. Breakfast one is not necessarily. It was around this time I also started experimenting using my body for attention online, in chat rooms with video recordings I made, but not even for money. I was just in it for the attention. Beneath all these developments that led eventually to physical addictions, the deeper addictions including simping to white men, ayo, I pretended I had a grasp on my tangible reality, so that I would look cool instead of showing vulnerability, and that lying leaves the door open to all sorts of real tangible chaos. In fall of your 2021, right when I was getting my relationship with my father to a sober, better place, all of the orders of calling. I was being ordered to call him weekly or daily or email him daily by General Koa. I started simping to one particular objectivist. He was willing to send me money to talk to me. I lied to the Army about that relationship while asking the General and Sergeant Major of the Army to do work around that relationship as if it were to standard and in my integrity. Things only got worse from there. Before this, my interactions with my father were cult-assigned daily check-ins and small talk / family history questions and sharing about myself.
So slice of life.
But I have a rage in me and my father, a fire that must be built in flames. After this, they became juvenile attempts to accept my father and blow up our relationship. Through this self-sabotage, I was eventually creating disgusting memes of my father and eventually of my mother. I was paid to email them by this guy. And I was also sent our private email exchanges to the stranger. I texted my parents for the attention. As I posted their memes on Facebook, I was like there's a whole thing, like a whole conspiracy that was going on. I had gotten physically sober, but the level of emotional insobriety and addictions to the height and lows of these types of situations had reached their peak, and it metaphorically makes sense that I was doing this all while being in like a house where like sometimes crack was being smoked, because I was smoking crack like emotionally and physically just to try and
Not physically. You never did any drugs.
I did not smoke crack, but I was physically sorry, I keep on trying to say that I was smoking crack, but I wasn't. I was emotionally and spiritually smoking crack.
You were staying in a house that had people engaging in that, because that's the kind of reality you were manifesting around yourself.
It was. That was the physical reality I was manifesting. That was not what I was doing.
Airbnbs of people smoking crack.
I had done stuff like this early on in Daylife Army before, and even fallen off the physical sobriety wagon when other bad boys were here IRL. I was supposed to be the one leading them. I took the opportunity to look cool to simp to them for attention instead of getting serious. So I was forced to get serious and face these issues head on when I started my solo journey this past winter, being purposely given less inner organizational attention. I was told to get my attention outside of the cult from bros through doing business to Daylife Army standard on behalf of my general. I was resentful of losing the attention supply I could no longer afford with DLA and eager to get my revenge after resentments had built up. I sabotaged the things they were asking of me for easier attention from this objectivist, who shall not be named, which was all I felt was worth. And I denied,
that you were worth.
all I felt that I was worth. All I felt I was worth. I had denied a lot of reasons I came to DLA to get to this point of regression. Slide, please. The main reason I came to Daylife Army was for rehab, the main reason I came to Daylife Army was for rehab, which they do have. It's called Redub, and they did a great job. But the problem was, it was a rehab I was unwilling to admit I needed or was in. I acted above that need and used the first male attention of quality I'd ever gotten by coming here from General Wiz to get cloud poison and fall off the wagon when commanding a crew of other tried-to-be men. I later used the orders of calling my dad weekly and emailing him daily last fall, this was many falls ago, to blow up the relationship in a typical dramatic, spiraling, publicly crazy way. I haven't even gotten into the attention I attracted from the FBI, Mossad, and other ops. If I talk about sobriety and my lack of it while acknowledging I'm still in rehabilitation for the underlying addictions I carried on to so long, that honesty will carry me far. So let's get into it more. Clearly, my real addiction is to attention. Male attention. Male attention. Which I feel like I do not deserve, cannot get, etc., and therefore go through crazy and vulnerable methods to acquire in satanic ways I believe are the only way that are possible. Ways that give me a fix, a high, because of how intense they are. It's a hit of heroin for me to have a public controversy, and the extra bonus points of it involves authorities like the FBI, Mossad, or mainstream media. All things that have happened during my army career. I even used this platform here, Facebook, which was when I was here first, to get all sorts of attention for the show I put on, being a bad boy Lothario controversial figure, when in real life I'm anything but. I'm a little bit of those things. But I'm also like a, slice of
The
that.
true underneath
True
all the
as a
rackets
cuddly
you
teddy
is
bear.
not that. When you have your rackets on like a large, fucking, disgusting, smelly coat, yes.
Large, fucking, disgusting, smelly coat. That's what it is. I embolden. I like that word. I feel like I have to read it like it's in bold.
Okay.
I emboldened and did not correct or deny my false image of an evil trafficking organization. Deep down, I liked the satanic cloud of that impression. Even if it was far from the reality. I was like, whatever.
Think of me as that. It's
Think of
cool.
me. Yeah, it's cool. What's crazy is no one actually likes that character I've played. Though, the e-girls of the past may claim they like it. They don't. No one actually likes it. If it gets me clout in the Pain Matrix, that's just Satan clout. I'm actually far more enjoyable as my true slice of life self that isn't putting on any airs of dramatics or hardness. It's a little bit dramatic, though, still. For what I want moving forward, time's up on all of the above. I'm leaving this truly horrible place, facebook.com, for good, deleting my profile and everything, as all of Daylife Army does the same. I wanted to make sure I addressed these things so that the spiral wasn't the note I went out on here. You will be able to find my videos on YouTube for the next little while. I've returned to soul redemption work through facilitating washing for everyone who wants it. I'm getting my attention soberly through relationships with business bros as my actual self. We're getting there, that's where we're headed. All of this, I will do as my real self for no clout points, and I will only seek to be famous with Yahuwah, not with these alphabet agencies or gutter dwellers I've been flirting with for my entire life and accelerating that dance with since coming here, a place I thought I could use to get more of that type of attention and fame. Oh, how wrong I was. I am underneath it all a wholesome person who wants to do way more normie things, and though I deny it at every turn when Satan whispers in my ear, I don't like the attention I've been soliciting. It doesn't feel good. I think that's it.
That's
All right.
it.
Wow.
Wow.
Where are we? 37 minutes and we're not even halfway through.
Cool. All right, so yeah, that is where Yonah was at.
DJ Yoni.
No. Like in 2021, 22 almost, maybe at that point. 2022.
End of 2021, beginning of 2022.
That's where he was at. That's the stuff that was gotten to on his solo journey.
Some of the stuff.
Some of the stuff. So like
That was like the breaking point, right?
that was the breaking point. That was where all this stuff came to light. And me as his manager, it really went to like, okay, this person's actually kind of in the icebox and suspended from the army until we figure out if we can even let him back in.
That you made that sound like that was your decision.
We as in the Daylife Army, not my decision at all. Let me be clear. Wico were making these decisions. I was the intermediary relaying it to you.
And
That's
the
all.
icebox is, what is that, a giant walk-in cooler that I was strapped to a chair inside of for 3
Physically,
days?
yes.
Is that what you're saying?
No,
Is that what the icebox means?
metaphorically it was an icebox, but really what that meant
I was
was
being iced
he
out.
did not get any attention at all, and he was no longer allowed to call on behalf of the Daylife Army or to represent the Daylife Army in any way. He was just Eden Brooke, out in the world, getting money if in whatever way that was legal that he wanted to or could, And he himself was sending in his own wash orders. He was not facilitating anything for other people. He was not representing the Army in any way, shape, or form. He was just on suspension until further notice, okay? And he was not really getting even talked to by me on the phone anymore at that point.
But that was, that was your own thing, right?
I think so. I think it was like...
Anyway.
Yeah.
MSG talks about lying being recognized as a big problem of his. And how... Okay. So, lying, big problem. How did that relate to my substantial in the aspects focus on feelings and themes as the motivation of things? That's the prompt. Abandonment, resentment, anger towards women.
Just talking about some of the like larger feelings or things that were happening, how did that lead to where you were at that point?
It's like I'm like an anchor man. If something's written on the teleprompter, I have to read it exactly as it is. Feeling unscripted right now. What are we saying? I'm just talking about how I feel.
Yeah, just like what did it feel like being in the icebox when that all came to light, and how does that relate to being a narcissist?
Well, everyone who's ever been a boy who gets punished for things, like for, gets found out. You were never punished as a child. I was punished a lot, I was put into situations. But anyone who's ever had secrets that they're punished for has to, like, at some point recognize that, like, being caught feels better than the lie. Like, when you're caught in a lie or a secret, there is a moment where you're like, oh, finally, like, I can finally just, like, live my life now that the secret has been uncovered. That is complicated because it's also, mixed in with a lot of other things were going on at that moment that was making me feel very scared and very sad and angry and all sorts of things. But there was also like a deep sense of relief to be found out and to be punished, to where, from that punishment I could find some sort of like redemption in my life. So that was okay. And the suspension was, nightmarish at times. It was really horrible. But through that, I developed skills that I would have not developed otherwise, I think. So I think that, I could have probably taken a fast track and started developing those skills previously to, getting thrown in the icebox. But I didn't. So I waited until I had hit rock bottom to start to build myself back up. I didn't necessarily build myself back up to be the man that I want to be, but I built myself back up to be a man of some kind who was doing better in a lot of respects than I was doing previously. If the only metric of that was providing a more stable atmosphere for the people around me. Is something that I learned to do.
I would say, maybe built up to being like a older teenager who's got a summer job and has like some responsibility versus being like literally a tantruming child who like has no...
Enough of the child-teen metaphors. I think what I said was...
I just want to make it clear that you're still on your journey to becoming a man. You have not like gotten there. That's all.
And she'll be the one to let everyone
and
know.
Women are not the ones to decide when someone is a man or not, but women can tell, like we know. We're not the ones that can make men into men.
So what does that make
people
you?
into men.
What does that make you?
I don't know. Let's not get too off script. So like, okay, now the icebox is where he's at. What happened next is basically, and I don't even know if you've heard this because this was with Wiko when I was living with them and you were off on your own. It was told to me like...
Info drop.
It was told to me, okay, the suspension can end, and if you foot the bill with, not literally, but like if you foot the bill with your management, you pay for this person in whatever ways that like could be covered by me, he can come back and be your direct report that you manage. His rank will go up, which means lowering in our, inverted pyramid structure. And my rank would lower to Sergeant Major of the Army, which would mean that I would have a runk that manages him officially on our contract renewals that we were getting around this time.
They shafted me. I was shafted.
So that was where the physical like moment of the reversal of fortunes happened, when we got those delivered, and I delivered his in a crazy way with zero context, just to kind of like dig in the knife of abandonment that he was feeling, because I like to under communicate. So with a lot of the back and forth of me learning to manage him was learning how to like communicate the vibe and all the information, which I was struggling really bad with in the beginning. But anyways, it got a little remedied through Wiko's help, enough so that he was not like freaking out anymore. He didn't leave. He chose to stay. He chose to renew his contract as Master Sergeant, no longer Major Jesus.
Major disappointment, more like.
And what did I give and receive with this reversal of fortunes? Because I'm in the realm with my day type about thinking of things in context of giving and receiving in the right places. You're about losing and giving, finding, losing and finding in the right places.
Should I plank right now?
No. So what I learned in terms of how to give was like giving by facing and fighting, being angry, facing my emotions and getting through them by giving the truth to the person perhaps I was managing and had been afraid to tell the truth to for most of our relationship.
Give me your truth.
I had was learning how to give information better, and how the ways that I lacked in that, all the unexpressed rage was finally being released that I had been holding on to, and never in my life had I expressed rage before, ever, which was problematic to say the least. So, I went super overboard with the rage expression, learning how to adjust the valve to maybe, getting a little crazy with it in the beginning.
Cheese graters were used.
Yeah. And all of my fears of hurting people through being evil were faced. I have a big racket or pattern in my life where I think that, like, I'm going to hurt people by being my true self or by, like, telling them the truth. So I've always pulled punches and actually hurt people by keeping back and not giving the truth in all these relationships I've been in. So this reversal, we have gotten to stability that we had never gotten to before. Hey, you know how things improved? We had never been that stable as an organization before in terms of physical stability. So I was able to actually leave Wiko's couch, no longer live on that couch, and get the attention that, I needed at the time. He had gotten that attention earlier before I came, and it was my turn to get a little bit of that focused attention to kind of build my shit up, get me out of some bullshit that I needed to get out of. So I got to go live on my own, which I was terrified of at first, but it ended up being awesome. I loved being alone. It was not lonely like I thought it would be. I had time to recover, to process things, to become my own person with my own frame and see how I could live my life alone. And yes, there were issues. I had problems. Too many naps, too many secret suites were had.
Secret.
But, I was getting to some shit, and I was miles far ahead of where I was before.
Biking in the sun to Panera Bread.
Yeah. But, this was Florida with my first time truly alone in this army.
Or ever in your life.
Or ever in my life, actually. Yeah. I was a serial monogamist and always had roommates if I wasn't with my boyfriend. Or living with my boyfriend. So,
I destroyed that.
So I was focusing my management of Yonah and figuring out that relationships from afar still. So this is something to be noted. We weren't even IRL yet after the reversal, so we hadn't learned how to do anything in person of like me being his manager and me learning to take from him and like be mean or just disciplined and like not coddle him or be nice or pull punches or whatever. To receive the responsibility I had in person, I guess. So, and we weren't even dating at this point, which we didn't even get into how I broke up with him during the time when Christmas, he was away. Yeah.
While I was sick.
Yep. Sad times for Yonah over here. So
by text message.
I wasn't even talking to you on the phone at this point. So
By text
yeah.
on Christmas.
All I have to say is
while I
none
was
of that
sick.
was even a fraction of the reaction. The things that had gone on before. It was like a delayed reaction to our toxic relationship in person, basically. And it was like, we need some space. Because, like, can you really sort out your codependent relationship and come back together without all those problems if you're not, like, separated during that time? And to be honest, like, well, we won't get into it anymore. Okay, so...
Christmas conspiracy hashtag.
keep the hashtags in your belt so you can go back to them and reference them. That's like, yeah, the Reversul mid timeline before we got back in proximity to each other, and so many things were going on with him around his life alone so much chaos and craziness as he was figuring things out. But there was more stability, I will say that. Even if he was still lying, it just wasn't the craziest types of lies that he used to be into. So why don't you go into how it was like for you on the other side of being officially managed by me?
I went further into my orthodoxy and began relationship.
So these are some of the things you found, I guess.
The Jewish people. Jewish people was still a liar, but less chaos happened. I began to actually let myself be managed by this one, SMA. Started saying yes, ma'am, but she liked that, and I liked it too.
Okay, actually, what? Let me.
I was about to leave over it because I was
the
like,
retelling
nah,
of
bro.
stories from the narcissist.
I was like, nah,
what actually
bro.
happened is he had a giant tantrum about him. He was
But
so ODD about me managing him at times that he would just be completely defiant and super bitchy and like be like, I might just leave because you suck. And then I was like, say yes, ma'am. Say yes, ma'am.
I was like,
say
no,
yes, ma'am.
I won't do it.
And then
You're being so mean to me.
He started saying yes, ma'am, and as soon as he did, he made an Instagram post that was like,
I like
yes,
saying yes, ma'am. Yes,
I
ma'am.
love it.
Yeah. I like it.
Anyways.
I like the yes, ma'am vibes, you know what I'm saying? That's the
So that's enough of that. Anyways, he's learning how to actually not just ODD spiral all the time, being managed by me. And hey, things go better, and he likes the things that he's forced to do while kicking and screaming.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, also the things that are being forced on him to do make his life better in the end, even if at points, no matter how long or short the period of time is, it can be difficult to get through.
Look at the beautiful person I am now because of all of this.
So I already mentioned this. I'm like repeating myself in this script, but I was learning how to be a bitch, how to be real, how to express anger.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, and
Our relationship desperately needed to change.
It did. And
She let such toxic shit happen, and as a part of it, she was enabling me to be my worst self. It was clear that she needed to step up, and that I needed to lose a lot in order to get rid of toxic shit. I really needed to lose, and I was learning to lose face. I didn't want to. But I'm happy to be on the other side of it, having literally lost my face. I don't even know
he lost his face. He was gone.
I still, it's still a daily struggle. We're not through it yet,
No.
Obviously this live video went better this time, but this is like attempt number 3.
Yeah.
At like trying to do this without like losing our minds.
And by us losing our minds, it's like you being a massive bitch and like super fucking ODD non-compliant and trying to act like a horrible victim, and me just like turning into a progressively shriller and shriller harpy, like getting angry at you and being like, I don't know.
Which is, I'm sure there's previous videos where you can go and see that relationship. It's just a little trite at this point.
We're not like trying to hide that relationship, but we're trying to like move past getting into that zone, because like 2 years ago, that zone was kind of necessary to get into because we had never fought and I had never been angry and expressed anger towards him. But at this point, it's enough, and we can just like learn how to express ourselves more soberly and he can learn how to like recognize his pattern of literally always being a bitch anytime he has to like go into like
I've been represented falsely.
information that he doesn't want to face about himself
I have
and
been
his narcissism.
I've been misrepresented by the Daylife Harvey.
You know,
I am in fact the hero.
of this tale of woe. Against all odds, I've beaten the. So, you know, we have plenty of places to get to, but like it is miles and miles difference from where we started this Reversal of Fortune's journey.
It's getting better all the time.
And now we like spend a lot of time together. You were so sad about being abandoned and thought we would never see each other again, and here we are every day.
Every day,
day.
most of all of the day. And we're starting to like each other again.
And we're gonna get to the point where we can actually have like some solo time again, and you can go off and out and about and do your thing.
Come back with cookies to bribe you into being nice to me.
No, because you know I don't do that anymore. I don't eat sugar to numb my
Now
feelings
I have to
and
bribe her with
avoid
actually being
true
a good
joy and
person.
treats in my life.
So lame. It used to just take a brownie.
Yeah,
and I
he'd come
could
back
get her
with
on
a
her
brownie,
side.
and he knew he'd get some nice narcissistic supply from me.
Oh, the times they are changing.
So,
what was it like for me? Wait, or is this where we ask each other questions? Or what? Or am I just talking? Okay, before the change, before I left and went on my Rumspringa walkabout, my coming of age man in the wild, naked and afraid, 21 days, you know, anyway, before I went on my naked and afraid, solo conquest of my own inner, you know, anyway, before I left the physical proximity and I stopped getting all the narcissistic supply that I thought I needed, I felt like I was probably, you know, I probably felt day to day more sated because I was just getting all of the supply that I thought I needed. But I was really just emotionally retarded as fudge. I was really emotionally retarded and just like held back in most of my way and just kept an eternal child. After the change, I went through hell. It sucked. It was really, really, really painful. But getting through that pain, emotionally, spiritually, maybe a little bit intellectually, not so much physically.
Yeah, I want to make it clear you weren't being like whipped in a literal icebox or like physically
I wish.
hurt. The way you're saying it was so painful. I just want to be
Painful.
clear.
It was painful.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying
There was no physical pain that wasn't my own
this
fault.
army isn't into that. Sorry.
They did make me. That's for it. Well, you know, it all was good, and there was no physical pain inflicted, but I went through my own emotional and spiritual pain through this that ended up being very beneficial to me and my character. It built you know how they say, it builds character, son. You know, I had to go through that. I had to get some character built. I wish that my father had just done that to me earlier in my life so I didn't have to go through this. Fuck you, Dad!
I was just going to say, wow,
Dad.
blaming the father.
Whatever. Your own Brooke is partially to blame for all of my problems. You know.
That's great to come to that decision after all this, that conclusion.
I'm just kidding. YY Brooke, Mr. Y Brooke, I forgive you.
It's not like he needs to forgive you for anything.
You probably have a few things to forgive me for. I'm sure that's a whole nother topic. But after the change, I was a better man. How was I different from the beginning of leaving October 2021 in North Carolina to return home in Florida around September 22? I had a lot of my bullshit broken apart to where I wasn't as ODD, I wasn't as, you know, crybaby bitchy. So by the time I got back with you, one, I was a provider. I was providing, you know, I was actually hitting goals, doing my thing, you know, being more self-reliant, could handle alone time. And that was good. So I think I leveled up a little bit. I manned up in my time apart and came back and was like ready to go with a better attitude. Cha.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Some of the time.
For me, I guess, what was it like before the reversal of fortunes? What was it like after? Before, in the moment, I would have said like how I felt, that I felt like I was in love and it felt like floaty, and you know there were problems, but whatever. And
Were you in love when I came back?
Don't interrupt me. And I would say that I felt like I felt dissociated, and like I didn't know what was going on, and I felt very much like I was looking for someone to tell me what to do and desperately avoiding saying what to do to other people. And in hindsight, I was actually like in complete denial of the toxicness and the relationship I was in and how much I didn't enjoy it. I think in hindsight, I was at the point that I had been in all my other relationships where I would have abandoned you and left you without telling you why. Basically, that's where I was at. But I was like brewing towards it and wasn't there yet. So I was just like, what's going on? I have to get the wash orders in today. Because at this point, I was still in charge of all the fin washing per day. Or not, he was managing me, but I was the one like doing it, where that reversed along with our reversal of fortunes. So that was taking up a lot of bandwidth for me. And I was kind of just like ignoring the glaring problems and kind of like glossing over them to give myself the good PR of like, everything's fine. And yeah, like not wanting to take responsibility at all. Now, after the change, I had leveled up too.
Empowered.
I felt girl boss 2022. I felt like I could say things. You know, your throat chakra, as the New Age community calls it, I felt like it had been unblocked. I was able to say things, express anger, express more range of emotions, and engage in conflict, and manage another person because I had the confidence in myself that I had not had before. And I was able to wrap my head around all the things that had actually happened, the kind of toxic relationship and what it was, and to demand a better relationship, because in a ways that I take responsibility for what things had gotten to, it was because I had allowed it and been like, yeah, I'm gonna be nice and enable all these horrible things because like, woo, like I wasn't doing that anymore. And it required a lot of outside intervention to like stop me from enabling those things. But I think by the end, I was getting to the point where I was able to recognize them, even if I let things slide and was like still like not on all of my P's and Q's.
Yeah.
You know, I was like far better. And
Yeah, that sounds great.
that's kind of how things.
Reversal of Fortunes Part 2. We have 10 more parts.
Do we really though? I have to like check in about that because I can't imagine.
I feel like we covered everything.
We didn't cover everything at all, but I just like, wow, 10 more? I don't know. I
10
guess.
more. I'm sure it'll take us, now that we do this new process, it'll probably take us the next 2 years to get through this one, and then we'll have a new one.
No, we're gonna be more like stable. What is the word? Consistent about this.
Consistent.
That's
Okay.
my
She said it,
goal.
so believe it. She promised.
Thank you for watching DLA Reversal of Fortunes Part 2. See you next time.